Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to meet Aaron and Brianna. Hopefully, I pronounced her name okay. And they're joining me. We're going to talk about Cowtown, which I guess is Calgary in Canada. And I just did a quick search for anyone still looking for some Memorial Weekend days. So tell us about Calgary. Do you guys live there? Have you been there a long time?
No, we certainly don't live there. We visited there last fall, and we had actually been wanting to go to Calgary for a long, long time, primarily because it is the gateway to Banff National Park, which is a very popular destination and that sort of thing. But of course, we went last fall. There was a really bad fire season for basically anybody in the northern US and Canada. It was terrible all across both countries, really. And so we ended up getting smoked out of Banff National Park. But the nice silver lining to that is we ended up falling in love with Calgary instead.
Oh, nice. Good. So how long would you expect someone might spend in Calgary?
I think it really depends on what you want to do there. If you want to go see Banff, you might want to allocate some extra days for that. We were there for what, about 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And
Uh,
that was a really good time to see most of what the city had to offer, and then some.
Right. Yeah, and then maybe do some of those loops, like you said, if it had been clear, or maybe up into Banff and the surrounding areas.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so those are easily drivable or even busable. You can take a bus out to Banff if you want to and not have to worry about a car. But we ended up finding someone that would give us a ride out there. So we did that and spent time with a local there.
Oh, nice. So you wouldn't necessarily, then it sounds like, have to rent a car.
We didn't. We never rented a car at all. I mean, we spent most of the time in the city proper and then popped out to Banff for a single day. If we were going to rent a car at all, it would have been that one day. But even then, it's important to know that if you're visiting Banff, two main areas that people usually visit there, Moraine Lake and Lake
Louise?
Louise. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Louise,
I
yeah.
wanted to say Lorraine, and that wasn't right. Lake Louise. So those two places, generally the parking lots fill like super fast, and then you have to pay to park there, and it's just a nightmare to actually park in those specific spots. So it's better if you are able to take some kind of mass transit into the park, at least to the primary visitor center area, and then they do shuttle buses to those primary lookout spots. So you really don't need to be driving inside the park unless you're going outside of those two primary areas.
Nice. Well, that's kind of nice to know that you could go there and be car free in Calgary
Oh
and
yeah.
then do some exploring outside. I mean, that sounds
Yeah.
great.
Calgary, the bus system there is excellent. So it's really easy to get around. If there's somewhere you want to go, you can usually, it's easy to navigate the routes. You can do most of it online. And we had no trouble there with that at all.
So talk to us about lodging. Are you guys corporate lodgers? Are you Airbnbers? Tell me about the lodging.
This is our secret weapon. Actually,
Okay.
not so secret. So the reason that we were even there for as long as we were, because we were only planning on maybe a few days, maybe about a week, uh, is house sitting. We
Oh,
absolutely love, love, love to house sit. We're members of a couple of programs now, and the basically how it works is you have somebody who lives in a place who's traveling, who needs somebody to come and watch their pets while they're away, and then you have people like us who are travelers looking for a place to stay. So it matches those people up, and it's a brilliant program because then they get a free pet sitter, we get free lodging, and both people feel like they're getting the better end of the stick. So it's a win-win-win. So
yeah.
we
Oh my
absolutely love
gosh.
doing that. So we spent 2 weeks hanging with these totally chill cats
Oh
time. So it was
And a really
awesome.
nice apartment too. They had a nice deck outside there, and the place was really well
Mhm.
equipped with all the stuff I needed to cook,
Mhm.
and that's a
Right off a bus
that's a
line.
money saver too, because if you're in a home, you
Oh yeah.
can go get groceries and actually cook all your meals instead of going out all the time.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that is a huge money saver. That is huge, especially now. I mean, my husband and I talk about it now. It's like even with two people, you think you're going somewhere, quote, casual, order at the counter place, you're still talking $30 most of the time
Oh yeah.
to eat. So,
Yeah, prices have really gone up a lot lately. And even while we were there in Calgary, we did go out to a few restaurants and they were fairly reasonable. We did splurge on one though, and there was this really cool Japanese restaurant that we went to that had this little izakaya that was like hidden. You open like, it looks like this.
It was a speakeasy.
It's a
basically.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So you open up this, looks like a Coca-Cola machine cooler, and you open that, and that's the door to it, and you go inside, and it was just a really neat little place and just a little off the wall. Most people know what's back there, but still, it's just, it was a fun experience for us.
Yeah, that sounds great. Oh my gosh. So is Calgary a place where they have like farmers markets, or since you mentioned doing some of your own cooking, or if you have like dietary issues, is it a town that's kind of have a mix of stuff, or?
It's a pretty bustling city, so you can find just about anything that you're looking for there. We did not visit any farmers markets ourselves. I would not be surprised if they had them. We were also there in September, so I'm not sure if that was maybe the tail end of farmers market season. But I know a lot of major cities tend to have that kind of thing, so I would not be surprised in the least if they did. But if they did, we didn't partake in that because we were in one of the suburbs and we were basically commuting into the town many of the days, and we were off doing stuff, so we weren't necessarily as casual with the living like a local, although we do try to do some of that as well. But we did go out to some restaurants, and they had a wide variety of choices, especially right there in the center area next to the river. The Bow River there is a very beautiful park that spans like miles down this section of the river, and we walked up and down that park pretty much every day. It was fantastic.
Oh, wow.
And they've got lots of like boba tea places you could pop in for some of that. They have all these little cafes. They have a big Asian influence there. The Chinatown is right there, so you've got lots of options for that as well. Plus, of course, you're in Canada, so basically every restaurant there serves some form of poutine, which we absolutely had to try while we were there. And we found one restaurant that we absolutely loved their poutine because it was like a pulled pork, and it was the sweet potato fries instead of just the standard potato fries, and they had like a mustard sauce on there. It was divine. It was
That sounds amazing.
It was not your standard potatoes and gravy kind of thing. It was beyond, and we loved it so much we actually went back specifically for that poutine to get it a second time. So yes.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that sounds great. So what are some of the other things you can do in Calgary?
So visiting the street that poutine restaurant is on is just kind of an experience in itself, because it's where like there are a lot of different restaurants, it's very lively. It's called Stephen Street, and it's right kind of in the center of town there.
And they close it off to pedestrians. I think if not in 24/7, then for like a good portion of the time, it's closed off to just pedestrians. So it's this long street, and they've got these artwork, and there's a mall there, and all sorts. So just visiting that street alone is amazing, and it's totally free, which is our favorite.
Yeah. And so some other free things that we did. Well, obviously we walked down that park. It was Princess Island Park, which it's just a fantastic place just to walking around and enjoy the views and everything. They also have an indoor botanical garden called the Davinian Gardens.
And that's right in that mall right there next to Steve Street.
It's right there in the same area, and you could just go in there and see all these neat like trees and things inside, and all the different gardens inside. And that's totally free. They also have the Glenbow Museum.
That was really cool.
That was a paid thing for us, but in 2024 it's going to be free because they're doing a big renovation right now. And that's going to be the one free museum.
I don't pay for that. Did we pay for that?
I'm not sure. I thought we did.
I thought it was free. I don't remember. I should check my notes.
I can't be sure.
I track all of our expenses.
But when I was just looking at it today because I wanted to be prepared.
Yeah.
That was just neat that they're doing a big renovation, and they're gonna have that totally free to the public.
Nice.
And then there are other gardens around. We went to another botanical garden that ran like miles along the freeway there, and they turned this whole section like, hey, it's right next to a freeway, you wouldn't think it's all that great, but
Yeah.
no, it's this wonderful long park that has all of these different gardens, all with different themes, which is really cool. So they have like a specific little herb garden, and they had
Oh,
a
wow.
shade garden, which was our favorite because that's our last name. It's like, hey, we
Yeah.
our garden, look at this. And then they had a garden for like a Shakespearean garden, and so they had all of these Shakespeare quotes that reference some kind of flower, or like a rose by any other name,
Yeah.
it smells just as sweet, you know, that kind of thing. And they had all of these plants and herbs and flowers and everything else all related to Shakespeare quotes. And so they had each of these little gardens all throughout that had these different themes. And you had the sunflower garden, and you had the I don't know what else did they have?
Weren't there smell gardens too?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
smell
did have
gardens? Oh my gosh.
something that was specific to scented
Yeah.
and so it was just really fascinating to walk along these and see all of these different little gardens that they had all along the freeway there. What was that area called? Do you remember?
No, not offhand. I don't.
Spring something or other, Spring Creek.
That's
I'm sorry,
okay.
I forget. But it's a wonderful, wonderful outdoor botanical garden, and that's entirely free as well. I'm sure if you do a search in Calgary for what that is,
Yeah.
it'll come right up, because that was one of our little Google searches that we did, and quite enjoyed that. I want to say that was right next to Beaumont Park, where we walked from this botanical garden over to Beaumont Park and walked all through. We got a lot of steps that day.
Yeah, I bet.
We
Oh my
love
gosh.
walking whenever we travel, so it's a great place to be outdoors and explore. It's also important to note that in the city itself, there are all sorts of outdoor art
Oh,
kinds of
nice.
installations, and
Yeah.
these beautiful little parks in random places, and fountains and sculptures and all sorts. So even just like wandering through the city, there's so much to see there.
Do it look like they have a lot of bike paths then for these areas too?
Yeah, I mean, the primary bike path that they had, of course, was going right along the river through that park, but it was a pretty bike-friendly city as well, for sure.
Yeah, that's good to know too. And would there be things for families to do you think?
Oh, certainly. I would say any of these things that we've mentioned, even like the botanical gardens and all of these
Oh, yeah,
parks and
yeah.
sculptures and whatever else, they're totally family friendly, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing that we did, we went up into the Calgary Tower. That was
Oh.
not free, but that was pretty cool because it's this elevated view. You get to see the entire city, and they have a whole historical thing where you can play straight on your phone. All of these snippets of, okay, you're looking west, and here are the
Oh.
buildings that you can see here, and here's something a little historical about this. And what's really fun about that is the train actually goes like literally right under the tower there,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
because they built like the city like right around the train tracks, and so the train tracks go straight through the city, and so they have a whole thing on the history of the railroad there as well, which is really neat.
Yeah, and there's also this area where there's a glass bottom floor that you can like step over, and you're looking straight down at the street, like way down below. And
Right.
a little nerve-wracking for people that are a little afraid of heights, but it wasn't really that big of a deal. But it was fun to be up there and see the full view of everything around you.
What was the weather like in September? Because generally that's a good time for some people yet to travel because it's slightly after kids are back in school,
Oh
so
yeah.
it tends to be a little bit more budget friendly.
It was fairly warm on some days, and then a little cooler, a little windier, and occasionally cloudy, and a little bit of rain while we were there. So it was a mixed bag of stuff.
But mostly it was still the tail end of fire season, so we
Yeah.
had a lot of smoke in the air.
Yeah.
It wasn't like unbreathable or anything, but it made for less than ideal vistas from some of these lookout points. It's like, it's kind of can't see the mountains today, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Had they started to see any fall colors? Since they're fairly north, at least of the
A
United
little
States.
bit. In Beaumont Park, we did. So we were there, and we're like, well, it sure would be nice if we see some fall colors.
Right,
And like, we
yeah.
hadn't seen any until we went to Beaumont Park, and like, oh, look, these are actually fall colors. And it
Yeah.
was interesting because the whole hillside, it looked like it was covered in flowers. but they weren't flowers. It was actually like the bush, the grubs, whatever,
Right.
shrubs rather, on the ground that were changing color. And so it looked like this field of flowers, but it was really the plants simply changing colors. And so that was really pretty.
Yeah, cool. So
Another
you,
refuge from the smoke was the Calgary Central Library.
Oh, that was cool. That was my
And
favorite place.
and what's neat about it is the architecture in there is just really cool. I mean, they got like this whole ceiling kind of wooden art kind of looking.
It's designed basically to mimic the hull of a boat.
oh, really?
So,
Oh, wow.
so you enter in one area, and it's this round pointed on either end, but the atrium is completely hollow in the middle. So you've got the stairs and
Oh,
all of
nice.
the library floors are on either side, but you've got this like inside courtyard, and you can look straight up and you see the skylight, letting in lots of light, and it had like 4 or 5 floors or something, and it was just this massive library, and it was beautiful, and all this natural woodwork, and it's mesmerizing to see. I took lots of pictures.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask because I see the camera sitting over there. If you guys
Oh
took
yeah.
a lot of pictures and some of your favorite places that you found to like, well, you mentioned the place to get up high for a different view of the city, and you mentioned
Calgary
going
Tower.
up to Banff but if it wasn't smoky, which happens, I mean, we can't control these fires and stuff, but any other places that you might suggest to get some views of the city or?
Yeah. So when you're in Princess Island Park, there's the Peace Bridge, which is really neat,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's got these kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. The walls on it.
The walls of the Peace Bridge
Yeah.
itself. Well, it's basically you're walking through a tunnel. It looks like, so this almost like red lattice work on either side that kind of encapsulates you into a tunnel on this, but it's glass.
Right.
It's like open but and glass, so you can see everything. And apparently we were there for the last weekend where people were still floating down the river, so the river was just packed with people on all sorts of different floating devices, and that was loads of fun. But yeah, that's a really cool place. And what was that park that we went to where we saw the city over on the other side of the city?
Oh, it was east, right?
Yes. It was much closer to the stadium there.
Mm.
And there's this park that's like right next to the stadium, but it's elevated. And so you can look down, you can see the whole city there. And
Yeah.
there's a little park down below. I forget the name of that park, but that was a really great place to see the city as
Yeah,
well.
just enjoy the views. They had some park benches there. You just sit and hang out and have a lunch or whatever you want to do. And I set up a time lapse camera so I'd get all the
Oh,
clouds and everything going over
yes.
Calgary,
It was beautiful.
and it was just a lot of fun.
Mhm.
That is really cool when you can just set up a time lapse, like you said. It just caught and it makes you slow down a little bit too. Because I think often we're like just, trying to fit too much in and we don't really just sit down and observe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that you're not overdoing it and take some breaks for yourself. And that was definitely a good time to just sit and relax for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you guys have your website is kind of called Big Tiny World. So tell me where, I mean, that's a creative name. What is Big Tiny World?
You want to take this one?
What is Big Tiny World?
Yeah.
Yeah, like how you came up with it, kind of how you feel it relates to
How
you and
did
your
we come up
travels.
with Big Tiny
Yeah.
World?
Keep shooting it back to me here.
I know, right?
Basically,
Division.
the idea is we all think that the world is this big, huge place, but we seek to make it feel a bit smaller. We are all about the cultural connections that we make, and finding that even if we don't speak the same language, even if we don't have the same cultures, even if we don't live in the same place or do the same things, we're all human and we are all much more alike than we might think. And so the idea is we want to prove that this big world is smaller than you think. So it's a big world, but it's really tiny when you think of all of the connections and how well we're
Yeah.
connected as a society all around the world. And it's these human moments that really light us up, and these connections that we make with people all around the world. We have friends literally all around the world, and it's remarkable. And I love thinking about all these people and all of these experiences that we've shared with these people. And it's these very human experiences and things that you're never going to find in a tourist book or on any kind of the cruise or anything like that. They're those in-between moments that you don't plan for that become this really remarkable and memorable experience for your travels. And we have made it our mission to help other people experience that for themselves, because that, we feel, is the true essence behind travel. And so we're all about helping people do the same thing that we're doing. I mean, we're just ordinary people. We aren't independently rich. We didn't strike gold. We're not doing anything special that anybody else couldn't do. And so we're trying to help others achieve a life of travel freedom and have those cultural connections all around the world. So that's basically what we are all about. And so our big thing is affordable, unlimited travel.
Yeah, I love that.
And seeking those cultural connections. I mean, when I go on a trip now, I'm all for just meeting locals and finding out all the local things to do, and not necessarily just getting straight into the tourist traps. Although, of course, I do want to see some of those things. You know, if you're going to be in Paris, yeah, you want to go see the Eiffel Tower. But I also want to see where people actually, you know, do their normal living and not just in the touristy places.
Right.
A little hole in the wall restaurant that's one of our hosts showed us, or you know, any of those places are more magical than just going to all the places everybody else goes to.
Right. And I think that's the beauty of what you guys are discovering by doing the house sitting, the house, you know, staying in people's actual homes. These are places they live, and you're going to most likely go to the local places near them in their neighborhood. And have you gone back to some of these host families' places? Have you done it repeatedly at the same property, or does that not happen so much?
That doesn't happen as frequently, only because it's hard for us to justify going back to a place we've already been when there are so many new places that we haven't.
Right.
And so that's rough. However, there have been a few situations where we were hosting a lot of teachers from Japan, for example. And when we went to visit Japan in Tokyo, we actually met up with some of them there. And that was really cool, because now it's like we were able to host them here in our home country. And then when we went there, they were able to show us some of the things there. And it's really amazing having a local, and like, because they speak the language and they know all of the things that are going on. And it's like, oh, well, thank you, because that means I don't have to stumble my way through this. So yeah, that's been pretty cool. We did just recently have a gal who we stayed with in Dubrovnik, who was coming through our area, but it didn't quite work out where we weren't able to meet up with her, but that almost happened. But it's really cool having these connections all around the world. So we know when we go back to some of these places, hey, we are in your country, let's meet up, kind of thing, and know that we already have friends, and it makes it feel much closer to home already and less of a foreign place.
We even have a friend from Istanbul who was in the US recently too, and I was like, oh, you should come over to the West Coast, but that just didn't happen either. But it's just so much fun to have these people that, you know, if we do go back to Turkey or England or wherever else it is, then we know people there.
Yeah. But like you said, it is a big world, because I'm kind of the same way. It's like there's so many places to discover. I mean, it's kind of like when people coming to the United States, often they, you know, we see them write those questions in TripAdvisor. They're like, oh, I want to see New York City, the Grand Canyon, and LA, and they want to fit it all in like 2 weeks, and it's like that's just impossible. You know, they don't. The difference in size in some of the countries, or just how accessible with roads or transportation or whatever our means of getting around, it's just different worlds, different places.
Yeah, Europe was pretty easy. I mean, you're going country to country in Europe pretty easily, like you would a state here, and so we were able to go to a lot of them. But and the transportation there is excellent, so it's easy to get between places, especially by bus. We were doing that, and that was the most cost-effective way to get around.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love this. So what's next? Where to next?
There's a lot
I
out there. I just
I think Thailand is very high on our list. We very, very much want to go to Thailand. We don't have anything on the books just yet, primarily because we've been working on our business and things at home. We also have a 21-year-old cat, and we absolutely love, love, love our kitties and hate leaving them behind. And we get super anxious when we leave for any extended period of time, specifically for our elderly kitty, because
Yeah.
21 is pretty old for a cat. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
want to say Japan too, because I really want to go back there badly.
But
Yeah.
for the most part, we've been doing a lot of local travels. We do have a national parks pass for this year, so we're going to definitely hit up some of those, and just kind of go where the wind takes us.
That's fabulous. So do you have a couple tips for someone? I know this year, I think especially budget is going to be a big concern. I mean, we're seeing airfares are expensive.
Oh yeah.
Hotel rooms have gone up like crazy, and just food
Mhm.
itself. I mean, just some of the basics that you have to have when you travel. Do you have a couple tips? And then we'll let you share your website and where people can learn more from you about what you're doing.
Certainly. Well, I mean, first of all, we are budget experts, so we've got loads of tips in that realm. However, I guess the first place that I would start is generally flights tend to be super, super expensive. And so my hot tip for you there is start with something like Google Flights. It's an aggregate. You can see everything that's available mostly, and you can get a feel for what prices are available. But then set a price alert. So say, hey, I want to go to Orlando in June. I don't know why you would want to go to Orlando in June, but let's just say, for example's sake, you're going to Disney World or something with your kids,
Yeah.
and you want to go to Orlando in June, then it's like, okay, well, I better get on it because first of all, it's May. But theoretically, you would have been doing this like 6 months ago. And you say, okay, I want to go during these dates. Maybe I'm flexible, maybe I'm not. And you check the little box on there that says flight alerts. And what that will do is that will automatically email you if those flight prices go down. We actually did this for a trip to Florida earlier this year, back in February. And when I originally set it, flights were about $600 for the two of us.
Right.
And then I got an email saying, hey, if you don't mind taking a red eye instead of going during the daytime, exact same dates, then it'll be $300 for the two of you.
Wow. That's a
300
big
bucks. We're in Oregon, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oregon to Florida for 300 bucks for the two of us.
It'll cost more for us to go to Denver, which is only like the state's over, you know.
That's usually like 300 per person. So yeah, so and that was just by checking a box. So that is my number one tip there. And yeah, absolutely.
One more thing with the flights is if you're flying a longer distance and you're looking at flights to, I mean, just say you want to go to New York, and there's like this really killer deal if you go to like an airport that's in another state nearby, that will offset any of the costs. You could probably get a flight from that point to the next point for cheaper than going direct.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good tip about setting the price alert, because in February too, I mean, getting to Florida, all the people in the cold states want to go to Florida. So to score that little check mark, like you said, saved you a large amount of money.
And so we've got lots of that, and if anyone is interested, we actually have a free guide on our website that's like the 5 most unusual travel budget tips that are your hardest hitting things. So they're your best bang for your buck, so to speak, except you're saving money instead of having to spend anything. And that is on our website, bigtinyworld.com/budget hacks.
Nice.
So definitely check that out, because with just those 5 tips, we save on average about $2,000 every single trip we take. So that goes a very long way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's fabulous. Thank you so much, Brianna and Aaron, for all your tips.
For sure.
I hope everyone goes to your website to pick up that guide. So tell us one more time.
So that's bigtinyworld.com/budget hacks, HACKS. Budget hacks.
Yay. Thank you so much. Have a
Yeah,
great
thank
day, you
you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.